Hey guys, tonight we descend into the drowned silence of Harrowgrave, where the wind avoids the well, and the stones remember. The village is forgotten by most maps intentionally. You suspect, here, you'll walk roads that lead you in a circle no matter your intent. The only straight path ends in water, and the well, it sings, but not for joy. The grass doesn't grow here so much as it recoils. Moss clings to chimneys like dead things trying to rise. And in the heart of the town, sunk into the earth like a hungry mouth, waits a well that has been sealed with rusted iron and prayer. Its bricks are smooth not from time, but from touch. Many hands, many times, far too often. And the villagers, long drowned. You probably won't survive this, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you're listening from and what time the shadows start moving where you are now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Harrowgrave well doesn't hum while you look at it, but the moment your gaze shifts, you swear you feel a vibration in your teeth, a pressure at the back of your eyes. You blink once, slow, the iron lid hasn't moved, but something inside has shifted its weight. The townsfolk were buried all at once, supposedly not from war or pestilence, but water. An unlucky flood, said the mayor who never aged. A forgotten dam, curious, then, that every home here seems untouched by water damage, save one, the house beside the well is skeletal. Timbers blackened, not by water but fire, no furniture remains. Only a single metal child's bed, too small for anyone now. You touch the charred frame, it's warm. Across the courtyard, in what might have once been a gathering hall, a sign still sways. The wood is rotted through. Letters once carved with care have melted into illegibility except for the last word, index. You approach, of course you do. You've always known you would, inside. The air is different, denser, like stepping underwater but still breathing. The walls are lined with wooden cabinets, none labeled. Instead, tiny skeletal hands, yes. Hands jut out from gaps between drawers, frozen mid-gesture, some clutch bone quills. One is missing a finger, and in its place, a folded scrap of yellowed parchment. It reads, "The water remembers what flesh forgets." A soft sound beneath your feet, drip, drip, drip. There is no visible leak, yet the floor is slick. When you move, you leave no footprints. The water doesn't accept you yet. At the far end of the hall, a spiral staircase descends into darkness. Carved into the topmost stair in cramped, childish handwriting is the phrase, "Do not follow the singing." Of course, you do. The steps spiral downward longer than any architectural sense would allow. You count 67 before the shadows grow so thick they feel textured. Around step 70, something breathes beside you, not behind. Beside, you turn quickly. Just a mirror, but the reflection doesn't move. Its lips part slightly, as if preparing to hum. Then only then do you hear it, faint, nearly lost to the silence. The well is singing. It's not a song you recognize. It's not even melodic. It's wet, gurgling, but unmistakably rhythmic. Not random, a voice submerged, trying, failing, remembering. And you understand, without knowing how, that the song is for someone. Not you, yet you reach the bottom, a door, made of book spines stitched together with red twine. No handle, only a whisper, push with the tongue. You hesitate. That's when the bone-dry gallows humor kicks in. Well, you mutter. No one said I needed to taste sanity again anyway. Your tongue meets the stitched leather. It's bitter, salty, and ... wet. You didn't expect that. You push, the door opens. Inside, shelves, towering, wheezing under the weight of soaked tomes. Pages drip endlessly, though there's no roof, no storm. Just moisture bleeding from memory itself. At the center of the chamber, a stone slab. Upon it, a single object drowned, damp and humming. It's a skull. Small, child-sized, a name etched into the bone. spiraling inward from the crown. You lean closer. It's your name. Not just your first name, your full name. Middle initial included, the one you never share. The skull hums a little louder. Behind you, another drip. You turn, the well isn't sealed anymore. No water pours in, it pours out, upward. And the singing ... harmonizes. The water does not obey gravity here. It rises not in great torrents, but in slow, deliberate strands, like hair floating in deep stillness. It curls toward you, not to drown, but to greet. You do not step back. You already understand that retreat is a myth here instead. You watch the water reach the rim of the well and spill upward, blooming into the shape of fingers. 6 of them, each jointed to many times, each knuckle inscribed with slivers of script, not ink. Bone-white carvings etched by something desperate to be remembered. The fingers stretch toward the skull. You look down again. Your name hasn't faded. In fact, the letters have grown clearer, as though feeding on your recognition. They glow faintly like wet phosphor. That's when the singing inside the skull stops, not fades, stops. And the silence that follows, it's shaped. You can feel the absence of sound settling on your shoulders like a shawl. You're being cloaked in memory that isn't yours. And within that suffocating hush, something speaks not aloud, but inside your marrow. The first drowned child was not a child. The voice is impossibly old, not with age, but with weight. Like it's been compressed over centuries of secrecy, only to erupt now within your bones. You swallow, your teeth itch, you taste rust. A name claws at the back of your mind, not yours, not yet, Elvra. That was the name of the one who didn't drown because she'd already given herself to the well. You see her then, a flash behind your eyelids. Dark hair matted with moss, eyes wide and milk-blind. Humming through split lips, she is standing over a crib. Inside, not an infant, but a bound tome with screaming pages. Her lullaby was never meant for babies. It was for the thing in the deep. You blink, the vision lingers too long. In the far corner of the archive, a shelf collapses under its own history. Dust spills out not gray or brown, but a sickly pinkish hue, like flesh powdered fine. It coats your boots, clings to your ankles. You hear a child's laugh, short, clipped, guttural. And it's right behind you. You turn. No one, of course. But the skull has moved. It now sits at the edge of the stone slab, tilted slightly, as though watching you from an impossible angle. Something shuffles in the water above. You look up, a girl, no older than 6, floating, head tilted back. Eyes open, mouth sewn shut with wire. Her hair drapes downward, toward you. At the ends of each strand, a small finger bone, tied with red thread. And the well sings again, this time, in harmony. You hear other voices layered in, some gasping, some murmuring, some clicking their tongues in rhythm. A song composed of those who remember too much. You should leave, but you don't. You walk toward the girl. Every step stirs the water, even though it never touches the floor. The moisture recoils from you, not with fear but with respect. The girl lifts a hand, points. Behind her, set in the wall like a wound poorly sutured, is a door. Unlike the stitched leather gate from before, this one is made of nails. Thousands of them, hammered point first into black wood. The tips form a pattern, a sigil you recognize but cannot name. You've seen it before on the inner lid of your grandmother's casket. You didn't mention it then, because the priest blinked twice at the side and turned away fast. That same priest is in the water now, floating behind the girl. His throat has been pulled open like a drawer, and inside are teeth. Not his, not human. The girl's sewn lips twitch. She hums, but not with her mouth, with her bones. And the skull on the slab begins to sing again, matching her tone, note for note. You reach the nail door. There is no handle, no lock, just an inscription at eye level. Your hands were borrowed, give them back. Below the words, 2 holes, shaped like fists. You hesitate, of course you do, but you've never felt more certain. Your hands no longer feel like your own. You slide them into the holes. At first, nothing. Then, heat searing, not external but internal. Like your bones are catching fire one at a time. You smell meat, your arms begin to tremble, not from pain but from acceptance. The door opens, and both your hands. Stay behind, you look down. Your wrists are stumps now, bloodless. The skin sealed, smooth, as though you never had fingers at all. The sleeves of your coat draped like mourning veils. You pass through, behind you. The nail door shuts with a groan that sounds far too close to a sigh. Ahead, a corridor made of spines, vertebrae stacked into archways. Ribs splayed like sunken cathedral buttresses. The air here tastes like ink, and every surface is inscribed with one phrase repeating, overlapping, etched in different hands. The drowned do not sleep, they dream. As you walk, you feel your lost hands crawling somewhere ahead of you, dragging themselves along the floor, reaching for something that has been waiting to be held. You follow the sound your hands make as they skitter over bone and wet stone, the quiet scrape echoing off vertebrae archways like the ticking of a rotten metronome. It's intimate, isn't it? Following pieces of yourself into the dark, like a moth chasing the memory of its own flame. The corridor curves now, but unnaturally twisting in on itself, like a throat constricting around a sob that never belonged to any one mouth. You pass a wall where dozens of eyes are pressed against the bone human, most of them all open, all weeping something that stains like oil. One of them blinks at you. You nod, politely. Ahead, a chamber opens round, symmetrical, almost surgical in design. At its center stands a tree, or something tree-like. Its bark is flesh, gray-pink and pulsing. No leaves, no branches. Instead, a lattice of umbilical cord stretches from its crown to the ceiling, suspending small glass cradles. Each cradle rocks, as if caught in some ancient lull. You approach one. Inside, a mouth, just a mouth, no face, no skull. Just lips, tongue, and teeth, mouthing something in silence. You don't need sound to understand. Mother is hungry. Your hands reach the base of the tree. They tremble with purpose, the bark parts for them not with violence, but reverence. They're going home. You crouch. Watch them vanish into the exposed pulp, sliding in as though birthed backward. The bark seals. A sigh escaping the flesh tree-like air from a wound that forgot how to bleed, and then it breathes. The entire tree inhales, its umbilicals swell. The mouths in the cradles moan in chorus. The lullaby begins. You don't know the tune, but your tongue does. It moves on its own. You hum low, and the walls pulse in approval. That's when the floor opens. No peels. Like old paper curling in flame, the floor beneath you tears itself apart, revealing a pit full of water but thicker. More like amniotic fluid gone sour, suspended within our children, hundreds, maybe thousands, not swimming, not floating, waiting. Each has their mouth stitched, but not with thread, with names. Actual names, carved letter by letter into their lips. Your name is among them. Somewhere below, one of the children begins to stir. The fluid bubbles. You feel your ears pop. The child rises. Unlike the others, this one has no mouth. Just eyes black, oozing and blinking. The umbilical cords begin to lower the cradles toward the pit. The mouths scream now, though the sound is still submerged inside your head, muffled by time and membrane. The tree speaks. Not in words, in rhythm, a heartbeat you know wasn't yours, ... Until recently, you step toward the edge. Your hand bursts from the bark behind you. It holds something, a scroll, dripping. Bound in skin you remember touching long ago, your grandmother's hands on your cheek before she died. You take it pulses, it hums with heat. The title flares in letters that write themselves into your thoughts. The blood scroll of the first stillborn. You are not surprised, you unroll it slowly. The script is written in spirals, not lines, and it begins from the outside and tightens inward toward a central glyph the shape of an eye swallowing itself. The first line curls across your vision, not in ink but in memory. The well sang when silence died screaming. You blink. The child from the pit is now inches from your feet. He holds no expression, just inevitability. He reaches out. You do not recoil. His fingers grace your leg. He hums, and your spine locks. Your mouth opens. And a second voice emerges, yours. Yes, but not yours. Younger, shrill, still full of hope. The sound of you before you saw behind the veil before this. You're remembering something that hasn't happened yet. The first time you killed your twin, the tree approves. A thick branch slides downward, curving toward the pit, and begins to drink. The children below rise faster now, each one vibrating with dread that doesn't belong to them. One opens their eyes and you see your reflection. Not as you are now, but as you will be, should you survive. Older, eyeless, mouthless, writing this story into the skin of others. The scroll burns your palm. You drop it. It lands in the pit. The fluid devours it instantly, and the child without a mouth smiles. Without lips, somehow, impossibly, you understand. That wasn't the first scroll. It was the last. And you were the one who delivered it. You back away from the edge, and the tree begins to retract. Its umbilicals tighten. The lullaby fades. But the silence now is pregnant. Something is about to be born. You look around the chamber. The walls have changed, new symbols. The eye that swallows itself now open, and the phrase below it, in letters dripping red, she who sleeps beneath the drowned will wake. You notice a door. There was no door before. It's not made of wood or bone. It's made of hair, thick, black, wet, braided into something that pulses with breath. You step toward it. One strand curls forward and presses gently to your temple. You don't dream of drowning. You dream of singing, and something, somewhere, sings back. The hair door parts without touch. It shudders open, as though to long denied the pleasure of yielding. You step through. And the strands coil briefly around your ankles in farewell, slick with memory. The chamber beyond is utterly still, not silent. Still as though time itself were caught in some deep exhale, lungs trembling with the weight of what comes next. The walls are stitched parchment, stretched taut between ribs that curve inward like a broken cathedral dome. Each page bears a different language. Some you recognize, most you do not. A few are scratched in ink, some in dried bile. One glows faintly with letters that refuse to remain still. Your footsteps do not echo. Instead, they repeat a half-second later, as if someone slightly behind you is walking the same path, just a breath too late. You do not look back. You know better now. At the center of the chamber is an altar, if the term altar can apply to something made from the fused pelvises of those who died in childbirth. A cradle rests atop it, not for a baby, for a book. The book is closed, it breathes, you can see it, the subtle rise and fall of the cover, the faint twitch of the sinewed spine as though it dreams. There is a pillow of velvet beneath it, black, DMP embroidered with the phrase. Read and be rewritten. You don't want to touch it. You already know you will, but you wait. Because in the moment before you do, something must arrive. The arrival is heralded not by sound but by flavor. Salt, brine, and then copper, as if your teeth are leaking. The hair behind your ears lifts. You are not alone. From the shadow of the dome, she descends, her fingers, first 20 of them, impossibly long, gliding down a bone lattice like harp strings. Her eyes come next, not 2, 7, all vertical, all closed, and finally, her voice not in words, but tone, a whimper that harmonizes with the wet fibers of the stitched pages around you. Every page begins to ripple. She lands without a sound. You notice her feet are backward. She speaks without opening her mouths. Yes, mouths. There are 3. One on her face, one where her navel should be, and one ... between her ribs, sewn open to reveal teeth whispering individually. You bear the scent of inheritance, she says, and the guilt of delivery. You try to respond, but your tongue is caught on a name you've never spoken aloud. She reaches toward you, cradling your chin with fingers that feel like regret. And then she asks, not with voice, with weight, do you wish to forget what you were born remembering? You hesitate. That's answer enough. She nods ... then bends. She kisses your throat with the mouth beneath her navel, and your memories begin to bleed out, not in drops but in echoes. You hear yourself at age 7, weeping over the drowned cat. At age 13, waking in a stranger's room, no windows. At 21, in the chapel that burned your laughter wasn't yours. Each memory falls to the floor in the shape of a cracked egg, inside, fragments of parchment. Each one etched in your handwriting, each one a secret you never told. She gathers them, feeds them to the cradle. The book moans, you step forward. The altar's pelvises shudder beneath the weight of recognition. You touch the book, it opens on its own. Pages flutter, not by breeze but by choice. Each page flashes an image, a name, a death. The midwife of the Maya shrine, who sewed herself shut after her final delivery. The child born weeping ink, the priest who refused absolution, then dissolved into bees. Each image sears itself behind your eyes. The book finds your page, blank, no ink, just a thumbprint and dried blood. Yours, it begins to write. Your skin itches, you glance down. Lines are forming on your chest. Writing itself into your flesh, you read the first phrase. When the well sang, it sang for you. The entity nods, it is done, you are inscribed. But then something unexpected, the book spasms. A new page tears itself free and flies upward, slicing into the air like a shriek in paper form. The 7 eyes snap open. All of them stare into you. You brought something back, she hisses. Behind you, the hair door screams. You turn, it writhes, and weaving. The strands fall away not into darkness, but into water. Rising water ... The drowned children are no longer below. They are here standing, silent, staring. Each one bears a face you recognize. One has your smile, another, your father's cough. One impossibly has no face at all. They walk forward, the entity does not move. She watches, she waits, the altar begins to sink. The book shuts, the room fills, the pages scream. The children begin to sing the lullaby again backward this time. Notes unraveling, you do not run. There is no escape. There is only acceptance, and you know what comes next. The second drowning, not of body, of identity. And in that final moment, as the water rises over your eyes, you whisper not in fear, but understanding. I was never the reader. I was always the ink. The ink accepts you, of course it does. It's been waiting since the first story you bled onto paper. As the water surges into your mouth warm and sweet, impossibly thick, it doesn't drown you. It reads you, you feel each organ alphabetize itself. Your ribs rearrange into margins. Your spine cracks into chapter breaks. You are becoming a folio of flesh and memory, pressed between the covers of something older than syntax. The children do not blink. They wade toward you through the rising ink flood, eyes locked, song backwards. Their mouths don't move, but their voices do, rising through the fluid with eerie clarity. The reader must be written. The book you left behind trembles, its breath quickening. The altar groans, pelvis bones cracking open like reluctant oysters, and beneath them another mouth. You almost expected it. The entity with the 7 eyes extends one hand, palm up. Nestled there, a quill made from your own femur, sharpened to a screaming point. Write your new name, she instructs, but of course, you have none left. Your name was carved into the drowned. It lives in their lips now. She waits. You accept the quill. Ink, if that's what it is, seeps from its tip, black with red edges. Humming with warmth, you bend over the water's surface, your reflection twisting. Instead of a face, the ripples form pages, blank, beckoning. You write the first letter, it burns. The children stop singing. They tilt their heads and whisper in unison. The butcher smiles. You freeze. How do they know? How do you know? Because suddenly the ink is no longer fluid. It thickens around your waist, your chest, your arms tightening like hands. So many hands, they do not pull you under. They press you open, you do not scream, but the sound echoes anyway. A scream borrowed from a throat that were your shape once. The water collapses into ash, dryness replaces pressure. You cough, and dust falls from your tongue like secrets too long unspoken. The altar is gone, the book is gone, the entity is gone. Only the children remain, now motionless, staring toward a corridor you hadn't seen before, its arches made of jawbones. Teeth chatter along the edges, hungry with anticipation. You step forward. The air changes again colder now, with the scent of wax and scorched vellum. The corridor is narrow, lined with alcoves, each one containing a face preserved in glass. Some blink, some cry, some grin. You pass one that looks eerily like the child without a mouth. It winks. The corridor ends at a door made not of hair or flesh or teeth but of mirrors. Shards fuse together, each one cracked, each one reflecting a version of you you've tried to forget. You hesitate. The mirror in the center shows your current form but only your back. As if the past has overtaken you, you place your palm on the glass. It opens inward, and the archive begins. This room is vast, impossibly vast. Shelves made from bones, scrolls bound in regrets. Books that bleed when touched, in the center, a pulpit, beneath a bell that rings without sound. A figure stands behind it, clad in an apron of skin, wearing a mask made from someone's face, holding shears wet with something darker than blood. You know them, or rather you will, because the mask is your own. You approach. The figure says nothing. They gesture toward the pulpit. A folio lies open, its title burned into the wood. The butcher's folio. You lean over it. Pages flutter. There it is, your own script. The first story you ever carved in spite. The second you recited in dreams. The third you delivered to the child who never existed. Each page matches your memory except for one. The new one, still blank, a knife lies beside it. Handle shaped like a screaming face. You know what to do. The figure doesn't stop you. You slice across your palm, and blood falls not in drops but in sentences. The page drinks, ... it trembles, it moans. And from the bell above, a single soundless ring vibrates through your skull. Something stirs on the highest shelf. The lights dim. You look up. And from between the books, a hand slides out. Not just any hand. Your hand, still severed, still twitching, still clutching a pen made of teeth. It points to a book bound in tongues. It's titled, The Well's Daughters. And beneath it, scribbled in a desperate scrawl, they never stopped singing. The children have returned. But now they chant a slow, rising phrase. Bind him, bleed him, read him. The mirrored door behind you is gone. Only shelves remain. You reach for the book, and it opens before your fingers make contact. The book reads you not in metaphor, not as a poet might mean it. It truly reads you, parsing your thoughts, sifting your breath, unraveling the scent of the last lie you ever told. Each page turns itself. Each word rearranges itself as your gaze skims the parchment, forming sentences that weren't there moments ago. Or perhaps they always were, and your comprehension is only now catching up. The ink bleeds upward, from spine to margin, forming lines that whisper, her lullaby cracked the sky. Your fingers twitch, your throat burns. And then you feel it, that terrible familiarity. You've heard the lullaby before. Not in melody, but in fracture. Once, as a child, you dreamt of thunder that came before the lightning, of clouds and zipping like wounds in the sky. In the dream, your mother was humming something soft, something in a key that didn't exist in any instrument made by human hands. Now, the song returns. It rides the wind that creeps through the archive, rustling vellum like brittle leaves, making the books hum low and deep as if remembering something they'd sworn to forget. A nursery rhyme echoes from somewhere behind the stacks. The stars fall in rows. The lambs sleep in red. She sings to the grave, and the grave lifts its head. You spin, no one there, but the children's laughter spills through the air anyway. Not malicious, worse, delighted. You look back at the book, a new page, an illustration, inked in rust, a woman in silhouette, her arms raised toward a tear in the heavens. Below her, the villagers kneel, hands clasped, heads bowed, mouths sewn shut with glimmering thread. Their eyes are open, their eyes are all yours. A chuckle, soft and grainy, rustles through the stacks. The butcher is near. You don't know how you know, but your blood knows. The sting in your palm is back, and this time the wound writes on its own across the floor, bleeding letters you cannot ignore. The prophet's tongue lies buried in Harrowgrave. So that's where this ends. Then war begins. You walk. The archive shifts with you, stacks elongate, twist. Always rearrange behind your back like they're being corrected by some unseen editor. Eventually, you find the black shelf. No labels, just a single drawer you pull. A mouth opens where the handle should be. It sighs, hot and foul with the breath of old graveyards. It offers up a scroll, no paper skin. Child-sized, pale, inked with lullabies in looping script. You unroll it. The text is warm, still alive. The black sermon. The lullaby again, now in full. Hush, child of ash, the stars taste sweet. Your bones are soft, the dirt shall eat. Your dreams are loud, the sky must break. Drink deep the tongue, and never wake. The final line is written in a hand not meant for writing. It's yours, not metaphorically. You've seen your handwriting distorted by time and terror, but this is inked in the trembling scrawl you used only once. The day you signed your first death warrant. The day you whispered a lullaby into a locked room and watched what it summoned through the keyhole. You fold the scroll, the archive agrees. A door opens ahead, no frame. Just air that parts like a wound, bleeding silence. You step through, now you are outside. Rain, but not wet, just pressure, pushing down from above like unseen fingers. The sky churns like a dark stomach digesting light. And in the center of the hell before you, the well. Circular stone, staring, you descend toward it. Each footstep sinks slightly into the grass. The earth doesn't resist you, it welcomes. Around the well, 13 stones, each carved with a single glyph. You know one of them, it's the name of your childhood shadow. No one else could see it, but it wept every night. The well exhales, a puff of mist. The lullaby begins again from below. Your ears bleed ... not from volume, from recognition. The voice singing is yours, not your voice, your future voice. The one you'll use when you speak the sermon aloud. The sky rumbles. A tear forms in the clouds, long, vertical, like a pupil opening, lightning, but wrong. The crack of sky does not end. You fall to your knees. The well moans, the voice rises. And you hear them all now, the villagers, the drowned. The ones who swallowed the tongue and sang back what they could never unhear. They chant your name, your true name. The one you forgot to forget, a child's laughter closer. You spin, and there she is. The girl from your dreams, the one with no shadow. The one who always stood just behind the mirror. She opens her mouth, inside, the tongue, red, shimmering, still pulsing with syllables not yet spoken. She steps toward you, offers it, and whispers, speak it, or the sky won't close again. You accept the tongue, not because you wish to, but because refusal would imply free will, and the archive, as you now understand, doesn't allow fiction. The tongue is warm, not wet, just aware. It folds into your palm like a docile serpent, curls, then tightens as if bracing. Its texture is uncanny, both muscle and parchment, blood and ink. You think it is afraid, as it should be. Your voice is no longer yours. It swells behind your teeth like steam behind old iron. The words are not approaching, they are already here, coiled in your gut, knowing their way upward. Behind you, the well sings a low note, pure and humming with impossible harmonics. The kind of sound that strips pain and memory both. Your ears tremble not from noise, but resonance. Somewhere in your skull, something cracks. A childhood vow, maybe. Or the name you gave your reflection long ago. You speak. The tongue moves with your own, guiding syllables that taste like rot, regret, and burnt feathers. Each word leaves a trail, a shimmer in the air, as the language itself has begun to curdle. Koruth, Imaneth, Dirilth. The sky howls, no wind, just grief. The stars blink once and go out. Not all of them, just a few, enough to remind you they were watching, and now they no longer care. The villagers begin to rise, from the ground, from the well, from the folds between seconds. They look like they did in the folio-stitched mouths, glassy eyes, hands like ritual tools. But now you understand the real horror. They recognize you, worse they remember you, one by one. They approach. One carries a lantern that glows with blood light. Another drags a harp strung with hair. The third extends a mirror, its surface black and writhing, reflecting nothing but a flicker of your future. You know these relics. From dreams, yes, but also from something older. Something buried in your family's silence. The heirlooms no one passed down because they passed themselves. The villagers kneel. The girl, still shadowless, still silent, lifts her arm. You begin the black sermon, not chanting, reciting. Your voice splinters the fog. The well gurgles. The air itself folds, like parchment in a too-tight book. Light cracks, not lightning, just illumination giving up. You say the line about the prophet's tongue. And the archive responds. The world goes still, as if time forgot to breathe. Then parchment rains from the heavens, not paper skin, tanned, lettered, familiar. Each sheet bears your face, a different version, a different sign. You catch one. It shows you laughing at your brother's funeral. You never did that, did you? Another flutters down, you on trial, being crowned with thorns made of mouths. They chant in unison. The armor fits. Your arms are no longer bare. The hands have returned, dozens, veil. Calloused, familiar, they grip your shoulders, your back, your throat, your spine. Not dragging you down, building you a cuirass of palms. A helm of fingers interlaced like prayer. You remember the line. His armor was made of hands, none of them his own. The butcher's folio. This is where it always led. The hands close around your chest, beat like a second heart. Tighten until your own stops trying. You do not die, you shift, you become. The villagers rise in song. Their mouths remain sewn, but the sound leaks through anyway. Harmony without lips. A chorus of the forgotten. The girl places the final hand across your mouth. It pulses once, you bite it. And the sermon concludes, not with silence. With memory, your first name. Your last sin, the moment you first opened the folio. It echoes backward through time. And the well at last sings ... high, clear, sweet. Like a lullaby, like forgiveness. Like a scream that never quite made it past the lips. Above you, the stars turn red. Below you, the earth splits like a book left long in rain. The villagers vanish, the armor remains. And you, now dressed in borrowed memory, step forward into Harrowgrave proper. The gates yawn, and inside, the shelves. Each one filled, each one marked with your name. Each one waiting for the next line. You pass through the gate, though you never hear it open. No hinges, no groan of rusted metal, just a breath drawn inward, as if the archive itself were inhaling you. The armor of hands clutches tighter, not unkindly. The fingers shift, adjust, grip with strange intimacy. One of them taps thoughtfully against your collarbone, like it's thinking. Inside, the scent changes. Gone is the damp rot of drowned villagers. Here, the air smells of parchment, scorched marrow, ink so old it's begun to dream. Each breath you take feels like you're stealing someone else's story, one they never finished telling. Rows rise around you. Not bookshelves, spines, towers of them. Stacked vertebrae upon vertebrae, threaded through with sinew, capped by skulls that leer downward. The bone is carved with runes that twitch if you look too long. You avert your gaze and feel them smile behind your back. A shadow hisses past, too fast to follow, too slow to ignore. It wears no shape, just suggestion teeth, perhaps, or sorrow. Much like your situation now, isn't it? To your left, a scribe bends over a scroll. You assume it's a scribe because it wears ink for eyes and its hands are quills, dripping language that hasn't been spoken since the moon last wept. It doesn't look up, but it stops writing. That's worse, you glance at the parchment. Your footsteps appear across it, word for word. As you take them, one sentence lags behind. He still doesn't understand what he's carrying. You step faster. Your boots, now not yours, are made of lips. They whisper apologies with each step. Most of them in your voice, one in your mother's. At the first junction, a girl waits. Not the girl. She has no eyes, just open sockets where small worms coil upward, reaching. Her dress is stitched from hems, and they hum as she sways. Do you remember which way leads out? She asks, voice flat, curious. You shake your head. Her worms nod. Then this way, she says, and walks into the wall. It accepts her. You do not follow. You move forward, down the leftmost corridor. The walls there pulse with breath, skin paper, veined, alive. They shudder as you pass, exhaling dust shaped like script. You don't read it, but the air does. The whispers that follow know things they shouldn't. He still hums that tune she was never meant to sing. The well forgave none of them. That last one clings to you. You round a corner and find a door, not a normal one. This one is circular, made of jawbones, each one fitted with a different screen. The handle is a child's spine. As you reach for it, it wriggles under your grip. You pull. The door opens into a study. Inside, a desk built from stacked heresies. A chair made from penitence, still twitching in agony on the desk. A quilt pulses beside a half-filled scroll. You read the last line written. The armor has chosen. The sermon has spoken. The next archive stirs. A sound like thunder but slower rumbles through the floor. You're not alone. A figure rises behind the desk. Tall, shrouded in veils made of mourning banners. It carries a candle that bleeds wax into the air, each drop forming faces that vanish before they can scream. The figure does not look at you, it reads you. You wear the folio's gift. You nod. There is no point in denying it. Do you recall the price? You think of the villagers, the girl, the well. You think of the hands. You shake your head. The figure leans forward. The price is clarity. It lifts a mirror from behind the desk. You look and see yourself, not as you are, as you will be. 1,000 versions, splintering outward, each one in a different archive. Each one reading the sermon, each one turning the page. Each one becoming, you blink. The mirror breaks, not shatters size. Like it's been freed. The figure points to the next door. This section ends. But the folio continues. You nod again. Your hands still not your own twitch with anticipation as you pass through. The well's song returns. Distant now, but rising a minor key. And beneath it something older hums back. You descend. The floor beneath your feet isn't stone or wood or bone this time. It's a texture that lies between memory and cartilage. It yields slightly, like the roof of a mouth. Every step squelches a sound that shouldn't echo but does, in voices not your own. The well's song fades as you go deeper, replaced by something wetter, not dripping gnawing. Like pages being chewed, the corridor narrows. Not visually, it stretches wider, taller, but you feel the pressure increase, like walking inside a throat that resents you. The walls ripple with each breath, and somewhere above, a distant belch of forgotten language rolls past like thunder through molasses. Your hand twitches, one of the armor's fingers peels from your wrist and points, unbidden, toward a narrow arch ahead, black stone, rimmed with runes that flake when observed. You do not question it, the hand always knows. Through the arch, the reading room, not for you, not yet. But they are there, the readers, dozens of them, seated in pews made of bent spinewood, backs straight, necks chained to pulpit stands. Each one reads a different scroll aloud, but not in their own voices. Each speaks in your voice. And you realize with a cold flush that each is reading a chapter you haven't lived yet. The scrolls glisten, they weep ink, some bleed a little. One reader pauses, lifts his head. You recognize your own face. You recognize the scar across his eye, a scar you don't yet have. He sees you, his lips move. No one escapes the third sermon, he says. Another you turns, this one is older. Wiser, no more used, like a tool left in a fire too long. Don't try to understand. That version says, just speak it and become it. The chorus continues, voices rise in sync. Each time the same line, the ink remembers. You step forward, and sure why, the room tilts. Not literally, conceptually, direction ceases to exist. The walls are behind your thoughts, the ceiling beneath your memories. The only constant is the pulpit at the far end of the room. A figure stands there. It holds a single page, you know the page. You've dreamed of its weight. The figure wears no face, just an empty oval, veiled with whispers. From its chest grows a quill. Plunged in deep, its heart, if it had one, would bleed sonnets. It beckons, you approach, the page trembles, it's blank. No, not blank, just waiting for the right eyes. You lean in and see. Your name, your true one, the one even your bones had forgotten. Written in a spiral that coils inward toward a single word in the center. Unspoken, you blink, the page is gone. The figure is gone, you're alone with the pulpit. Until you aren't, a girl walks in from nowhere. Her dress stitched from apologies, her shadow a swarm of moths. You've never seen her before. But she knows you, she places something on the pulpit. It's your tongue, not the one you swallowed. The original, still wet, still singing. The girl nods once and walks away. The tongue sings in a key only the dead recognize. You pick it up, the hands on your armor close tightly. You speak only once. Only a single word. Begin. The archive exhales. And all the scrolls catch fire without heat, without smoke. Just illumination that burns meaning. You are not alarmed. You are ready. The sermon resumes. Not the first, not the last, the next. And it's yours to tell. The sermon coils inside your ribs now. Not like a memory, like a parasite. It breathes with you, against you. Every exhale seems to whisper syllables your mind denies, even as your bones nod in rhythm. Behind you, the reading room has collapsed not into rubble, no, into pages, thousands, weightless, swirling like dead leaves too stubborn to rot. They follow you, drift behind your footsteps. Try to slip between your fingers like lovers denied a final grasp. You don't look back. That part of you has been read and filed. Ahead, the corridor rises not upward, but inward. The stone arches lean like mourners. A flickering of braziers along the walls provide no light, only suggestion. They sputter with shadows that act out scenes you swear haven't happened yet. One shows you reaching into a grave, pulling something still pulsing from a velvet box of teeth. Another shows you walking into a cathedral on fire. Only you are the fire, a third best left unspoken. You look away too quickly to truly deny it. The hallway ends in a door. You know this door. Its frame is made from the jawbones of outbreakers. The handle is a single, twitching eye still wet, always watching. You press your palm to it. It does not open. Instead, it asks one question, spoken not in voice, but in doubt. Do you remember the seventh binding? You don't. Which means, of course, that you were there. The eye blinks once, satisfied with your confusion. The door opens, inside, the annex of unwritten things. It smells of unsaid prayers and skin-thick dust. The books here are unfinished. Some begin with conclusions, others never start. Many don't want to be read. They shuffle along the shelves when unobserved. Some blink, one hums, but one lies on a pedestal, waiting. Its title is carved into the leather with tiny, meticulous teeth, the folio of hands. Your hands begin to itch, the armor tightens, you approach. Your reflection swims across its surface not in glass, but in the fluid of old ink that has learned to remember. You open it, and it opens you. The first page shows the anatomy of the armor you wear. Not sketched, no, etched in excision. There are diagrams of fingers being stitched onto knuckles that weren't born for them. Of palms flayed open, not to bleed but to whisper. Each illustration moves slightly when you're not looking. There are no captions, only red arrows pointing, one at your sternum. Another at the dream you had when you were 9, the one you've never told a soul. A third, your tongue, the real one. Not the song it sang, but the scream it swallowed. Your breath fogs the page, text appears, 3 words. Trade is binding, your hands twitch. The armor's fingers peel ... one by one. Not from pain, from purpose, they fall onto the open book. Arrange themselves into a shape that is not a language, not a glyph, not even a mark. But meaning erupts from it, you stagger. A phrase enters your mind. You do not think it, you are thought by it. The prophet never wrote, he bled memory. You feel something warm dripping from your ears. You are learning. You are becoming red, the pedestal tilts. A soft click from underneath, a drawer slides open. Inside, a child's hand, still clutching a quill. No ink ... only marrow. You take it, because what else is left? The moment your fingers close around it, the folio snaps shut and screams. Not out loud through you, the pages claw at your mind like trapped moths. And then stillness, the room is empty. You are alone, no almost. One book remains, thin, fragile, whispering. You touch it, it stops, you open it. A single sentence, when the sermon ends. The hands will hunger. You look down, your armor is gone, your hands are gone. In their place, others, dozens, old, young, familiar. Some clutching knives, some forming prayers. One pointing directly at your heart. You take a step forward, they all twitch in unison. Somewhere far above, the well begins to sing again, you're starting to understand. And that is always the first mistake. The walls narrow around you not spatially, but intentionally. The corridor seems built to press against your breath, to weigh each step with the quiet insinuation of 1,000 unseen eyes. Not watching, reading, the folio still hums in your mind. Its script etched across the soft insides of your thoughts like candle soot under a fingernail. The child's marrow quill remains in your grasp, although you don't remember closing your fingers around it. It fits too well, like it was always meant for you. Or maybe, just maybe, it was once yours, ahead. A door that never appears the same way twice awaits you. Last time, it was a veil of ribs. This time, it's simply a mirror. No frame, no reflection, only surface, only pull. The air behind it feels thinner, as though exhaled by something vast and caged. You step through, the space beyond is not a room. It is a groaning archive, shelved in spiral patterns, stretching outward into a horizonless black. The shelves are uneven, stacked not with books, but with binders of flesh stitched and indexed, as if cataloging agony by decade. The titles, names, not printed, spoken, you hear them whispered, one after another, in a hush of stitched throat syllables. Yours joins them softly, wrongly, as if your name is still deciding what it wants to mean. This is the index of prayed miracles. Here, every file is a plea that went unanswered not by silence, but by agreement. Each binder contains a record of divine refusal, a curse granted, a child stillborn, a soldier spared only to return changed. You reach out, the one nearest you breathes softly. You hesitate, of course you do, but the marrow quill dips itself into a tiny inkpot nestled between vertebrae. The liquid inside is thick, not red, more like rust-given sap, or the memory of clotted wine. You write a single line on the open page. I was not supposed to survive. The binder shudders, closes, files itself. Another one opens unbidden. Its pages are blank, but the binding is still wet, freshly used. Inside, a sketch begins to form, not ink blood, salt memory. It shows the prophet, mouth sewn shut with needle vine. Screaming with his eyes, he's surrounded by parishioners made of smoke and regret, each holding a piece of something dismembered, not a body, not quite. More like an idea flayed into components. One holds guilt, another hunger, third, the shape of your mother's voice when she lied about the knocking in the cellar. The caption below reads, "To teach the unspeakable, one must first devour speech. You step back. The shelves lean inward, eager, too eager. You flee, not run, not stumble, but flee as the archive begins to sing in fractured Latin. You pass a hanging scroll. It flutters violently, spelling nothing. Yet your teeth ache as if reading it was a crime you just committed. The marrow quill grows heavier in your grip. The ink clings to your skin now, inside your skin, pulsing like something preparing to be born. At the corridor's end, a threshold carved from choir bones. No door, only the sermon's mouth. Yes, you recognize it. You stepped through it once before. But not forward, down. Back then, you had no name, only purpose. Back then, your hands were your own. Now they twitch when the prophet's name is near. You enter, and the sermon begins. It does not start with words. It starts with absence. All sound is denied. Not silence reversal. Footsteps erase behind you. The air tastes like torn pages. Your heartbeat echoes backward, pulsing with the rhythm of unsung hymns. A pulpit rises before you, carved from memory. The prophet stands behind it. Still tongueless, yet you hear him speak. A voice like old stones settling. Like bone cracking under reluctant forgiveness, like your own voice. Before you learned fear, he raises a single finger. Points at your chest, not your heart. The space beneath it, the place that dreams live. And then he smiles, not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly, like someone who's already read your ending and approved. The prophet's smile lingers even as his skin begins to fray at the edges, an unraveling that does not bleed, but weeps colorless ink. His robes ripple as though underwater, though the air around you is dry to dry, in fact, brittle with the taste of ash and hint dust. You look down. The marrow quill is gone. In its place, a finger, yours. Detached, yet obedient, cradled in your other hand like a relic. It still twitches, as if eager to write again. The prophet gestures. The pulpit cracks in half, not splinters, folds like pages in a book written in the shape of a cathedral. And there beneath it lies a scroll, the scroll, bound in a chain of tongues, some childlike, some too long, all desiccated to parchment skin. It breathes, not rhythmically, not calmly, more like panting, as if exhausted from being unread for so long. You kneel, you do not mean to, your knees simply decide. The prophet holds out a shard of mirror, no reflection again, only a flickering absence that resembles your face if it had never stopped screaming. He places it in your mouth, it melts ... so do your words. From now on, when you speak, you will taste other people's memories. When you pray, you will mouth confessions that are not yours. The prophet nods, the scroll unfurls on its own. Its first line is already written. The sermon begins when the last listener stops breathing, a test, a warning, or just a note left by someone who's still here, just not visibly, behind the prophet. The room opens into a circular gallery, pews, yes, but not for people. They're filled with statues, each draped in wet cloth, still dripping. Their heads all tilt toward you, though none have eyes. One by one, they begin to hum. The same 3 notes, a lullaby but wrong. Reversed, played on a bone flute, you recognize it. It's the song from your childhood nightmares, the one you always woke humming but never remembered learning. The prophet lifts one hand, signaling the next part of the sermon. And from the darkness behind the pews comes the sound of something vast crawling, its claws tap in triplets. Its breathing is dry. You cannot see it. You do not want to, but you do. Of course you do, a beast, stitched together from every sin and punished in this place. Each segment of its body bears a face, a familiar face, your old teacher, who vanished after asking the wrong question in chapel. The butcher's apprentice, who said nothing the day the meat screamed. Your father, your mother, your self-holder, eyes black, mouth sewn shut. It crawls past you, headed for the pulpit. But pauses, sniffs the air, and bows to you. You want to run, you want to scream, but you're already doing both inside. The prophet extends a hand again. You give him the scroll. He shakes his head. You realize you're not the one giving it. You're the one receiving. The scroll lifts itself, lashing its tongue chain toward your chest, wraps around your ribs, tightens. You fall forward, yes, that's what it looks like. But in truth, you descend into the parchment, into the spaces between its lettering. The world peels into text. Your thoughts become margins, your memories, footnotes. You open your eyes, you're in the pew. A statue still dripping, but watching, listening, waiting for the next listener to stop breathing. You remain still, the wet cloth of your new form clinging like regret. No breath escapes your stone lungs. Yet the cold inside you sighs with each syllable uttered by the prophet. He does not read from the scroll, he bleeds it. Each word drops like ichor from the lipless rift in his face, thick as tar, alive with unformed consonants. From your place in the pew, you watch the other statues twitch in agreement, their veiled heads nodding in synchronous, aching rhythm. The scroll glows faintly now, its surface twitching like skin recoiling from contact. With each verse, a new line etches itself into your mind. To hear the sacred truth is to forget your own. You feel your name slip from you. Not drift, tear, it leaves no hole, only a repurposed silence, the kind that invites something else to root there, and something does. A memory but not yours settles in your skull. It's a village, drenched in rain that won't stop, mud-slick children running from house to house with jars full of moths. A bell tower that rings only for the dead. You know this place. You know you've never been there. You flinch. So does the prophet. The sermon halts. Every statue stills. The silence tastes like copper from beneath the pulpit. The beast returns, no longer crawling, but upright, assuming a shape it shouldn't know. Your shape, but stretched, wrong limbs to long, eyes filled with alphabet ash, and teeth carved from rejected verses. It speaks your voice, but from its mouth pours another story. I buried the last priest beneath the weeping font, a tremor in the gallery. The prophet bows not in reverence, in caution. You realize the sermon is no longer about instruction. It's now a trial, and you are the defendant. The scroll continues, unraveling faster now. Its tongue chains lash wildly, splattering the gallery in ink that stains light itself. Where it lands, shadows form not from objects, from intentions. These shadow forms flicker through the pews. Mimicking motion, you see one whisper to a statue, and the statue begins weeping ink through its veil. You feel a trickle against your cheek. You are weeping too, but not tears, letters. They fall from your eyes in curling, barbed glyphs. One lands on your thigh. It hisses. You brush it away, but your skin keeps spelling it. Regret, the prophet lifts his hands once more. A final verse, the scroll jerks violently and splits open, revealing not pages but a mouth ringed with teeth shaped like punctuation marks, commas like sickles, periods like pit eyes, exclamation points like falling blades. From its throat comes the final phrase. Let him be written, and you are. Words etch themselves into your skin, not tattoo sentences. Each line is an accusation, each letter bites. They say what you did, what you might have done, what you will do. One line reads, he opened the gate not to escape but to invite. Another, his prayers were weapons, not pleas. And the worst, he knew the tongue was still alive. You do not understand, not yet, but you feel your mouth move reflexively. And your tongue, it writhes. heavy alien, reading something aloud. The prophet nods in approval. The scroll shudders in ecstasy. The statues resume their hum. You are being absorbed, not into the gallery, into the sermon itself, a character now. Now, worse, a footnote, a warning. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls but backward, devouring its own chime. The gallery dissolves around you, and you find yourself on the floor, back in the corridor, scroll gone, finger whole. But the writing remains beneath your skin, waiting for someone else to read it aloud. The floor beneath you is no longer stone, it quivers, as though it has begun to breathe. A heartbeat throbs gently under your spine, and you realize it's not yours. Something beneath the corridor is dreaming, and your return has stirred it. The uncluttered veins threading your arms throb in sympathy. The writing is no longer just beneath your skin, it hungers. You sit up, slower than you intend. A smear of ash marks your hand where it touched the ground. When you lift it, the stain shifts like a map, bleeding rivers that spell old dialects you don't speak but deeply recognize. Ahead, the hallway bends in a way it hadn't before. That's not metaphor, it physically arcs wrong, like a joint bending backward. Where once was a flat stone corridor now stretches a narrow passage shaped like a screaming mouth. The ceiling curved like a tongue pinned in place. You walk anyway. What choice do you have? Your footsteps echo not against walls, but against names. Each echo repeats your name differently, as though testing various pronunciations from lives you haven't lived yet. The fifth time it says it correctly, you stop. A door appears, carved from bone pulp and stitched parchment, its handle shaped like a clenched fist. It pulses. You don't knock, you unclench it. Inside, a room full of choristers. Not singers, survivors of sermons. Their mouths are sewn open, their tongues replaced with quills. Each sits at a desk, copying passages that bleed through their parchment as though unwilling to be held still. Above them, dangling from threads of unspoken sins, are glass bells, one above each head. None have rung yet. As you enter, one turns. You recognize them. Not from your life, but from the sermon. They were a line, now they're a person again. Their quill tongue flicks slightly, a greeting or a warning. They hold up their page. It reads, "Speak not the ending unless you want to live it." Another chorister lifts a hand barely. The skin sloughs as they move, revealing names burned beneath. One of them is yours, but it's crossed out. You begin to ask what that means, but you remember. You don't speak now. Your voice belongs to someone else. You bow instead. They nod. From the far end of the room, a drape twitches. A gust of ink-scented air slips out from behind it, wet and whispering. It tastes like burnt parchment and memory. Behind the curtain lies a mirror. But the reflection doesn't show the room. It shows a chapel, your chapel, but not as you remember it. Its windows pulse with trapped screams. Its altar made of bone wood engraved with your thoughts, yes, the ones you never told anyone. In that reflection, you are preaching, and the pews, filled with you, over and over, each iteration slightly more decayed. Each mouth open, each eye unblinking. Some cry, one laughs. And one, closest to the pulpit, simply holds up a page. It reads, "You're not the first to wear this story." You step closer to the mirror. Your reflection doesn't follow. It waits, then smiles. Its teeth are quotations marks. You blink. Now you're behind the pulpit. The chapel is real. You look down. The scroll is open. The congregation is silent. Your voice crawls up your throat, but it's not your sermon anymore. It's theirs. You speak, and the mirror inside your skull fractures. You feel the echo of your own voice settle behind your eyes. It isn't speech, it's a binding. The syllables emerge not as breath, but as parchment fluttering out of your lungs, curling midair, etching themselves in blood on the rafters above your congregation of cells. You are preaching, but you are not present. Each word births a memory that never happened, a truth you never knew you forgot. The chapel's wooden pews groan, not under the weight of bodies, but under the pressure of expectation, the dead awaiting instruction, the forgotten waiting for resurrection through you. Your reflection no longer bound to the mirror walks among the congregation now. You notice its armor. No, not armor, hands. Hundreds of hands, none of them its own, sewn together into a writhing cuirass that clutches and claws and sometimes waves. One child's hand rests over where its heart should be. It twitches with every word you speak. One of the puke creatures stands, dragging chains of regret behind it. It opens its mouth and instead of a tongue, a scroll unrolls and falls to the floor, curling around your ankles. You recognize the ink you're handwriting, but the language is not yours. The Black Psalm of Vorthur again. You know this stanza now. And he who carries voice is not his own, shall drown in the ink of those unspoken. As you mouth those words, your fingertips go slick. You raise them, ink no, not ink, language is dripping from you. Liquid syntax, congealing nouns, ideas that scream. The reflection catches one of the drops in a copper bowl. It sizzles, the others rise. They approach, but not to worship, no. They've come to bind you. This is their service, this is their Sabbath. The scroll at your feet slithers backward, rolling itself back into the lips of the open-mouthed corpse in the front pew. You didn't see her arrive. You know her face, she's your first listener. The one who used to stay through every tale, the one you buried. The one who never stopped hearing you. Now she has your voice, and you only echo, a bell rings. One of the chapel's glass windows splinters. You flinch. Not because of the noise, but because no sound follows. The shatter is mute. The silence bleeds down the wall, forming a sigil where light should fall. The congregation kneels. You don't remember teaching them that. Another bell, more windows fracture. Cracking like jawbones under strain, the shards hover in the air, not falling, just trembling, like they're listening for something else. The reflection gestures. It wants you to continue. You take one step forward, your feet sticking to the stone floor, as if the chapel itself is reluctant to release you. A book appears in your hands. You don't remember taking it, but it's open. The pages are made of hands, two pressed flat, inked palms, fingers splayed and twitching slightly as if about to sign something. Your name is written 1,000 times, each time, differently. Each version is true. One version smiles from the pulpit. One hangs from the rafters. One lies curled beneath the pews, whispering nursery rhymes in reverse. The voice behind you hisses. Not words, just agreement. You've reached the place in the sermon where you can't stop, where the words turn on you. Where the Black Psalm is no longer being read, it's reading you. The page turns itself. Your hands are just passengers now. You try to close the book. It bites just a little, but it draws blood. And the congregation sighs in relief. They needed that. The reflection steps up to you now. It leans close, whispers. You're preaching with my tongue, remember? And opens its mouth. Inside is nothing. Just a wet, cavernous echo of your voice. And your ending, the mirror you shattered earlier. It reforms just enough to catch your gaze. And in it you see the final chapter, a chapel burned, a prophet tongueless, a crowd clapping their flayed hands together in unison. And your name floating in the air like ash. Crossed out, but not silenced, never silenced. That's not what the blood scroll does. It just makes sure someone else is listening. You do not remember closing the book, but it's gone now, vanished, or rather, absorbed. Its weight lingers in your arms like an infant you once carried too long. The pulpit is empty, the chapel, too, except for the ink-stained floor and that hush that follows only after a scream no one admits hearing. Outside, the sky has bruised into a blacker shade of wrong. You step down. Not stairs vertebrae, each vertebra clicks under your boot with a sound not unlike teeth being counted. The chapel doors gape wide, the hands that once made your armor twitch on the hinges. They'll wave you forward, of course they do. Forward is where the scripture leaks. Beyond the threshold, the world has twisted. The village you remember, if you ever remembered it, has folded in on itself. Thatched roofs bow like mourners, Chimneys breathe smoke backward. Trees hold nests filled with teeth instead of eggs. And the road is made of tongues. They stretch ahead, dry and gray, whispering prayers you can't unhear. One tongue thicker than the rest has your handwriting tattooed across it. You try not to step on the words, but they move beneath your feet, insisting. A milestone appears, a literal stone chiseled with tally marks. Each mark is bleeding, a bird lands atop it, opens its beak, and spits out a page of the blood scroll. It flutters, torn, and finished. You do not catch it, you already know what it says. When the prophet forgets their name, the sermon finishes itself, the air around you tightens. Something watches from inside the roofs, beneath the soil, behind your eyes. Now, under your name, a shape on the road ahead beckons, hunched, cloaked in folds of mourning linen. It hums the lullaby, her lullaby. The one that cracked the sky, each note she sings distorts the light above, wrinkling reality like cloth left alone in bone sun. You approach because, of course, you do. That's what this has always been about, approaching the thing you already were. She looks up. No face, just folds, just writing names stitched into where her features should be. All the names you've carried, lied under, signed unto decrees of execution, contracts with a whispering ink. Confessions not your own. She tilts her head, and a dozen children's voices speak from her robe. Do you remember your silence? And you do too well. Back when you first learned that the quiet was not absence but preparation. That silence was how the sermon begins. She extends a hand. Fingers made of pages, you touch them, and every word you've ever hidden erupts into the open air. Around you, the village reanimates, not living, not exactly. But it moves, the wind turns, not cool, not warm. It is aware. Each gust repeats a single phrase. We swallowed the prophet's tongue again. We swallowed the prophet's tongue. Again, and then the chorus adds, now we speak. The woman thing's robe falls. She evaporates, scattering into script and song, and in her place stands a child. You know this one. You invented her. She was a footnote once. A warning at the edge of a page. Beware the girl who dreams in echo. That's what the black song called her. Now she stands barefoot on the tongue road, eyes filled with ink. She speaks your first lie back to you. The one you hoped would die in its own silence. Tell them it was never written. You flinch because you did. You told them, and now every structure of your life is remembering. The sky opens again, cracking, not thunder, but applause. Dozens know, hundreds of voices chant the next verse of the sermon. He walks in hands that are not his voice stitched shut with names he kissed. His armor weeps, his shadow begs, the scroll rewrites. The prophet bled, you look down. Your reflection walks beneath you, a perfect mimic in an ink-slick mirror beneath the tongues. It mouths something you cannot hear, then it smiles and points upward, to where the next voice waits, the voice that replaces your own. The one that was birthed the moment you denied the last truth. The sermon isn't over, not even close, but You're almost out of names to lose. The child that is not a child waits, ankle deep in names. Her eyes shimmer not with light, but with memory, thick as tar and far older than innocence. She hums again, not the lullaby, no, not this time. This is a fragment, a discarded stanza of the black sermon. One that drips instead of sings. You try not to listen, you fail. The melody seeps into your skin. You know this tune, it was etched into your ribs the night you dreamed of mercy and awoke with a knife in your mouth. The scrolls buried beneath your thoughts, yes. Those begin to enroll. They peel like scabs, revealing verses written in alphabets that no longer belong to this world. You blink, your hands are wet. Not with blood, something older than blood. Ink, no, ink doesn't shiver, the ground trembles. From beneath the tongue road, a hand pushes upward long fingers, joined into many times, fingernails etched with hems. One finger hooks your boot, you don't scream. Not because you're brave, but because your mouth is already reciting. The sermon continues, a verse you never learned, yet always knew. His ribs became the altar, his breath the offering. His silence, the hymn, you stumble forward. The child follows, you do not turn around. You don't need to. Her presence prickles against the inside of your spine. The road leads to a house. But not yours. You never lived here. But your bones did, once. The structure is made of reclaimed prayer planks of wood carved from pews, nails rusted from martyrdoms. The door opens without touch, without sound, without permission. Inside, time and knots. The room beyond is not a room, it is a memory. One borrowed from a prophet who never had a voice, only eyes that bled scripture. You recognize the scene. The child who isn't a child sits at a table. Across from her, you, only younger and unscarred. No armor of hands, no knowledge of tongue roads. Just you and a candle. The candle is weeping. Your reflection watches you from the mirror hung beside the window. Except it's not mirroring you anymore. It's waiting. The child smiles at your younger self. Her teeth are flat and many. Not human, not even close. You remember what comes next. You don't want to. But remembering is a kind of summoning, isn't it? You spoke the name, the forbidden one, the original one. The one you tore from the prophet's last breath as his tongue was swallowed beneath the red altar. The moment echoes now. We name you, O Father, tongue thief, armor walker, and the walls join in. Boards groan, nails weep rust, the ceiling peels downward, opening like a mouth. Inside, a choir, mouths stitched shut, yet singing. Their voices pour from the cracks, threading through your spine, dragging you back into the seat across from your younger self. You sit, the child hands you a cup. It's full of silence. You drink it, because of course you do. And when you lower the cup, your younger self is gone. In their place, a pile of teeth. One of them is yours. You pick it up, it wriggles, whispering. You light first, the walls close, no exits now. The candle snuffs itself, the mirror doesn't stop watching. And the house, it forgets how to be a house. Now it is a mouth, a sermon mouth. The tongue road curls up behind you, severed from its origin. The child crawls onto the table, her fingers tap out a rhythm. Knock, knock, knock dash knock dot dot. You remember that pattern. It's the one they taught you in the nursery of echoes, back when you still believed shadows were just absences of light. The door reappears, but it's inside the table. You open it with your own hand, which is strange, because your hand is missing. No, not missing, replaced with someone else's. One of the hands from your armor has taken charge. It drags open the miniature door with surprising gentleness. Inside, a scroll. You recognize the seal. A human molar, freshly plucked. You crack it open. Words spill out not across the parchment, but across the air. They form into something alive, something reciting your deeds backward. From death to birth you fall, you always do. You land on steps, marble slick with devotion. You're back at the pulpit, but now it's inverted, hanging above you like a gallows. A figure stands at the apex. You can't see their face, but you can hear their tongue. It's yours, and it's preaching. The tongue, your tongue suspended mid-sermon, writhes like a serpent that knows it's being watched. Its wet syllables slither down the vaulted air, coagulating into truths you've never spoken aloud but have always known. They are not meant for you, they are meant about you. The voice drips from the rafters in verses carved from your spine. He offered no penance, only silence. He bore no blessing, only burden, his armor. Guilt, skinned and nailed in place. Each word bites a little deeper. The figure sways like a hanged priest in a forgotten bell tower. Their limbs bend wrong, too many elbows. No visible face, just folds of skin where a mouth should be. And yet, the voice continues, rolling like thunder filtered through parchment and bone. You reach for the edge of the inverted pulpit. The marble underfoot shifts, each tile bears an engraving names, thousands of them. Some are scratched out, others pulse faintly. Your hand brushes one with the back of your knuckle. It warms. You look closer. It's your name. Spelled the way you forgot it, not the one you wear now. Not the name of the tongue thief or the butcher scribe or whatever title the prophet stitched into your fate. Your birth name. You blink. And it's scratched out. The tongue above chuckles. A wet gargling note like laughter filtered through drowned lungs. You step forward. The cathedral, if that's still what this is, tilts with you, as though the entire structure is strung by threads. And you are the weight that tips the sermon. Above, the choir begins to hum. No mouths open, no lungs breathe. Still, the sound begins. It's the lullaby again, but slowed, drawn out like a dirge fed through teeth. You close your eyes, and the melody wraps itself around your skull like a noose of lullabies. Each note is a fingerprint left on the inside of your mind. They've sung this before, they'll sing it again. You step closer to the pulpit's base. The figure overhead gestures. Its arm unfolds like parchment being pulled apart too quickly. Something tears but not flesh, something structural. Reality works with the sudden creak of conceptual tension. A hand descends, not to bless you, to claim you. It points to your armor. You remember now, every hand sewn into your plating once belonged to a scribe who tried to rewrite the sermon. They failed, now they serve as your penance. The hand points again. This time at your feet, there's a new hand crawling toward you. Fresh, familiar, your own, the one you lost in the house of mute prophets. It drags behind it a small scroll tied with a strand of hair that pulses like it still remembers pain. You bend, take the scroll, unravel it. The words aren't written in ink, they're teeth. Molars, canines, incisors arranged like script along a spine of stitched flesh. The message reads, the sermon is not over. You are merely the pause. The tongue above stops, all eyes yes. Now you notice them, hundreds, blinking open along the cathedral's rafters fix on you. A single note hangs in the air. High, lonely, false, you are being invited. No, not invited, summoned. The pulpit splits open with a hiss-like parchment tearing in slow reverence. Stairs upward, dripping, of course. Always upward in these stories, because what better place to fall from? You ascend, each step sighs underfoot, releasing phrases from long-dead sermons. Words that crackle with heresy, phrases never meant for daylight. The tongue is a door, the voice is a blade. Speak, and being made, halfway up, you find a lantern. It holds no flame, only a screen. Trapped, caged, still echoing, you carry it, of course you do. Because that's who you are now, the one who carries the unspeakable. The bearer of unread verses, the archivist of sin. At the summit, a chair, but not for sitting. It's an altar disguised as a throne, or a throne disguised as a trap. You understand instinctively, once you sit, the sermon resumes. But not from the tongue above, from you, the armor tingles. The hands twitch, your mouth waters with someone else's saliva. You are ready, not willing, just ready. The child is there again. No longer a child, she wears your face now. You forgot she would. She holds another scroll. The final one, made of your future. You open your mouth to protest, but only the sermon comes out. The pulpit closes above you and below. You are sealed in, not trapped, consecrated. Your tongue forgotten, your voice rewritten. You sing. And something listens. You sing. The hymn has no beginning and no and only hunger disguised as melody. Your throat stretches with it, thins like wax beneath a flame, shaping syllables you don't remember learning, in a language that tastes like iron and grief. Each verse is a door, each note, a key. You feel them unlock the space around you not spatially, but symbolically. The very fabric of the cathedral begins to ripple like a skin remembering the knife. You aren't alone, you never were. They emerge from the alcoves, the pulpits, the marrow of the walls. Figures in robes made of confessionals, stitched together with rosary wire and damp vellum. Their faces are pages turned blank by forgetting, where their mouths should be parchment, nailed shut with tongues, but they hear you. And worse, they understand. You're telling their story now. No, your story. Their story was always yours. Bound together by the folio, that skin-bound book you wrote with stolen hands, that never let you leave. You try to stop, you fail. Because you've reached the refrain, and the refrain is binding. We the many, flayed to one, the sermon speaks through severed tongue. Let the silence now be sung, the choir falls silent. Only you remain, your chair tilts back. The cathedral peels away like parchment set aflame. Behind it, the well, not the real one but the first one, the well before water. The well that heard the lullaby and cracked the sky to let him in. You know what waits in the water, you've seen its shape in dreams. A shape that laughs before you sleep, your chair floats toward the mouth of it. The original tongue hole from which prophecy leaked into the world. The child watches from the threshold, not young, not old. Not anything that breathes the way you do. She holds a knife made from your regret. You recognize the hilt, it's carved from your own guilt. The same guilt you buried when you turned away as the choir of infants burned for a rhyme you couldn't unlearn. You remember, of course you do, the lullaby always returns. The knife hovers in her grip. A gesture, a question, you nod, you were always going to. She doesn't stab you, she rewrites you. The blade presses into your forehead, parting skin. Not with violence, but with intent, the way a librarian might open a book. Behind your eyes, pages unfurl. You are made of vellum, you always were. That explains the texture of your scars. The ink returns, your veins fill with black, coiling sentences that have no authors, only readers. Each beat of your heart etches new verses. You try to think, the folio tightens. You were never meant to understand, only contain. The throne sinks, stone gives way to water. Water to ink, ink to silence. Silence to scripture, you are no longer singing. The cathedral sings through you. The well opens its throat, from within, a shape. Not quite man, not quite God, more like a sermon that grew claws. It touches your shoulder, not to comfort. To sign its work, you have been authored. The final line brands itself across your ribs. You feel each word burning into place. He who wrote with stolen hands now becomes the page. The tongue returns. Not yours, a newer one, wiser, crueler. It curls down from the cathedral rafters, or are those your veins now? And nests behind your teeth. It hums a waiting note. Patient as a plague, you speak, but not in words. Your voice is the turning of a page. Your breath is the crinkle of vellum. Your heartbeat ink dripping onto parchment. You don't know where you are anymore. A cathedral, a well, a book, a story. Yes, all of them. You are the butcher's folio. And they've only just begun to read you. The folio breathes. Not as lungs do, but as catacombs do, expanding with secrets, exhaling mildew and marrow. You feel your pages curl slightly at the edges, as if warmed by a fire that isn't there. Each curl is a memory one you didn't write. A boy in the nave with his face eaten by scripture. A bishop crucified on a lattice of choir wires. A sentence so long it wraps the entire bell tower in guilt. They are inside you now. You are their archive. And archives never rest. The tongue twitches behind your teeth. It's old. Older than language. It doesn't speak, it annotates. Every breath you take becomes a footnote in some heretical gospel of suffering. Somewhere, someone is reading you aloud. You feel them hungry, curious, unaware of how much of you they've already swallowed. That's the nature of cursed books. The reader never realizes the ink stains their fingers until their name appears in the margins. You rise not as a person, but as a passage. Your limbs are joints in narrative. Your eyes become annotations, your mouth the errata of all things spoken in blasphemy, and the child follows. She no longer walks, she turns, her form folding into new poses like a page caught in a cruel wind. One moment she is a girl, the next a diagram of sacrifice, then a prayer etched into a screen. She says nothing, but the knife still drips. What comes out is not blood. It's ellipses, you understand. There's more to write. You descend the pulpit again, or is it a tower now? Or perhaps a ribcage hollowed into a library. Your hands trail along the banister. It is carved from silence, not absence but restrained noise. Every groove hums with things that never made it to sermon. The folk prayers, the barn whispers. The lullabies murmured under floorboards while executioners knocked politely on the door. They all reside here, bound, waiting. You arrive at a door with no handle. A sentence is etched across it, "Speak me," and I open. You hesitate. Your tongue writhes. The words you utter are not yours. They are hers. In the name of forgotten vowels and the prophet who never died, the door exhales. It doesn't open. It peels like fruit you step through. It is a scriptorium, but wrong. Instead of desk soldiers, instead of scribes listeners, dozens of robed figures kneel, heads tilted, ears pressed to their own palms, whispering, listening, scribing what they hear into the folds of their flesh with quills made from ribs. None acknowledge you. You are beneath them. Or perhaps above, hard to tell anymore. At the center, a pedestal, and on it the original folio, bound in the hides of those who thought they wrote the final draft. The book is closed. It is humming. You approach. You know better than to touch it, but you do, because you always were meant to. The instant your fingers graze the cover, it speaks. Not aloud, inside, your gums ache, your molars itch. A single tooth wriggles loose and falls to the floor. You don't look down. You know it has your name carved on it. The folio opens itself. Pages flip, some blank. Some weeping, some sing. Some burn, one stops, a page with no ink. Just indentations, words pressed in, not written. You brush your hand over it. You feel the shape of the letters. They spell. This is the moment he remembers. This is the moment you become. You blink. The page is gone. You are standing outside the scriptorium. Behind you, the door vanishes. Before you stares again. Up, down, does it matter? You begin climbing. The child is gone now. But you feel her watching from inside your throat. The knife remains in your hand. Or maybe it's a pen now, or both. You write as you walk, trailing a sentence behind you like a tail. You send it toward the final punctuation, but never reach the period. The stairs narrow, the walls tighten. Your breath becomes text, your shadow lengthens. At the top an eye carved into a mirror. You don't see yourself, only the reader, blinking, widening. Smiling, they see you. They always did. They wrote you, and now they wait for the next line. You swallow, the tongue shifts, and you begin again. You blink, and the stairwell blinks back. The steps beneath you soften, no longer stone, but parchment creased, yellowed, and gently flexing with each breath you take. The banister coils upward like a question never meant to be answered. You trail a hand along it, fingers whispering across fibrous scripture, as though the words themselves flinch from your touch. You've been written into a sentence far older than your birth. Up ahead, laughter. Not joyous, not mocking, remembering. A giggle that sounds like rusted windchines clinking over bone. A child's laughter bent through time and sharpened by suffering. You know that laugh. You heard it in the nursery when the cradle rocked on its own. You heard it in the attic where no door leads. You heard it the night your breath fogged the mirror and the reflection grinned. The laughter leads you to the vestibule of masks. Dozens, hundreds, each mounted on velvet stands. Some weep, some leer, a few simply tremble, as though remembering the faces they once replaced. You are drawn to one in particular, a butcher's mask. Crude leather, stitched from too many mouths. Where the eye hole should be, the leather is taut, covered by scabs of silence. No eye may look through it, only inward. Your hand moves of its own accord. You lift it. You don't wear it. It wears you. Inside the mask, echoes. Inside the echoes, your name, rewritten. You are not who you were, not anymore. The mask speaks without sound. The prophet was the first lie. The tongue was the second. You are the third. You drop the mask. It doesn't hit the floor. It crawls away. The room narrows. Or grows wider. Space becomes meaningless. Only narrative remains. The next chamber is circular, an oubliette, perhaps, but lit by floating candles, each flame suspended in tears. At the center, an oracle, though calling it that insults the concept. She is draped in scrolls, her eyes inked over, her veins filled with red string. Each finger is a stylus, scribbling new futures on the cracked tiles. She writes without looking. She sees without light. And she stops when you arrive. The scribbling halts. The string tightens. She cocks her head. You hear her voice before her lips part. He comes again. The one with the pen, but this time. He bleeds what he writes. Your hand aches. You look down. There is no knife, only quill. But its nib is bone, and its ink spilling from your own wrist. You don't remember the cut. You always had it. Right, she beckons. Not with a hand, but a gesture made from possibility. A space in the air where a command was never spoken, yet obeyed. You step forward. The floor peels, like skin. You descend, again, this time not into darkness, but into grammar. Pillars of punctuation rise around you, monolithic commas, serpentine ampersands, ellipses that stretch into corridors. The sentence you're in no longer ends, it loops. You pass the same broken clause again, and again, each time. Your shadow says something different. He begged before he sang. He sang after she stopped breathing. He stopped when the well left. You break the loop by closing your eyes. It doesn't help. The oracle remains behind your eyelids. The folio was never just a book, she whispers. It's an inheritance. You open your mouth to ask what inheritance. But only bees emerge, ink bees. Buzzing blasphemies, you taste each word they carry. Scripture, spine, sacrament, scars. They vanish into the ceiling, leaving behind only a soft hum. The sound of forgotten sermons. You are left alone, but not unwritten. Your next step takes you into the margin. Literal this time, the world around you shrinks. Letters tower over you like monuments. Each one a grave, a misused capital letter here. A sentence fragment there, they beg for revision. They bleed for clarity, you press onward. The wall ahead is stitched from redacted prayer. Crossed out names, black ink like burned scars. But you can still read them, you always could. One is yours, it flickers, corrects itself. Now it isn't. Now it is again. You reach out and feel the hand from behind grab your wrist. You don't turn. You know who it is. She was the lullaby, now she is the verse. And you are the refrain. The mask is in her hand. And she is offering it again. This time, the eye holes are open, and inside them, you see yourself reading, writing. Bleeding, living, dying again and again and again. The mask does not ask this time. It climbs dot its leathery fingers, yes. Fingers now caress your cheeks with something like reverence, something like possession. And you let it. You always were meant to. You feel it wrap around you, not your face, but deeper. Like a hood woven through your thoughts, stitching itself into memories, smoothing out the parts of you that protested. You are quieter now, more legible. You see the room not as it is, but as it was written to be. The walls bloom with marginalia. Annotations scribbled in languages that breathe when read. The floor is carpeted with tongues, not the metaphorical kind. Actual tongues, pressed flat, dried like petals. Each one bears a phrase of the Black Sermon. Each one was taken from someone who tried to pronounce it out loud. You feel your own tongue twitch in solidarity. Above, the ceiling shudders. The sentence is coming. The one that cracked the sky, the one they swallowed the prophet for. You recall it now not from memory, but from inheritance. You were there, weren't you? When the choir opened its mouths to scream, but no sound came, only syntax. When the parchment sky tore and the ink behind it hissed. When the Black Sermon began, The walls start singing it now. Not aloud, no, through osmosis. Each breath you take contains a syllable. Each blink, a glyph, each footstep, a conjunction. You are halfway through it by the time you reach the red hallway. You know it's red not from color. Your eyes no longer trust such things, but because the very air tastes of iron memory. Blood memory. This corridor knows too much. It whispers its own citations as you pass. Here the butcher rested. Here the lullaby halted. Here the pen snapped, and it stops you. A door plain, unassuming, wood blackened not by flame, but by reading. So many eyes burned through it over centuries that it began to return the favor. Now it stares back. You knock, because that's what you were taught. Because there are still echoes of manners within your marrow. A voice answers. It is your voice. But older and female and rotted, she invites you in. The room inside is blank, utterly. No floor, no ceiling, just mist, and in the mist, the archivist waits. No face, no features, just a pen and a mouth. But no lips, just teeth, many teeth. All the better to enunciate. She doesn't speak, she writes, and what she writes becomes... You glance downward, the words are there. Not carved, not burned, but floating. Lines suspended in thought, circling your ankles, waiting for your breath to stir them. You lean closer, they say. The reader arrived late, but not too late. The blood scroll isn't finished. She gestures. A quill appears, carved from the femur of the first archivist. Its tip drips still. You take it, because to refuse would be rude. Because to refuse would be rewritten. The archivist watches. You begin to write, but your hand does not move. The script unfurls of its own accord, and what it says you will not like. He wore the hands of his victims, but none remembered his name. So she sang it into the sky, and cracked the silence wide. The ceiling above opens. Not physically, conceptually. A hole in the plot, a rift in the revision. And something watches through it. Eyes the size of punctuation marks. Pupils shaped like ellipses. You are being edited. You are being proofread. The archivist taps a claw against your temple. You've left something out. She hisses the reminder. What did you take from the well? Ah, yes, that. You open your hand. You'd forgotten it was closed. Inside, a note. Not paper, flesh, folded neatly. You unfold it. It says, when they drowned, they sang your name. You fold it back. You are the last verse now. You are the pause between stanzas. You step forward. You are inside the scroll. Not metaphorically, not spiritually. You are physically embedded, a syllable-shaped person in a sentence-shaped fate. The mask tightens again. It doesn't cover your face now. It becomes your face. The quill you hold writhes in your grip. It wants to keep writing, but you haven't finished the next thought yet. You know you must, because the sermon isn't done. And if it ends, something worse begins. The quill drips something that wants to be ink. It hisses as it strikes the parchment to your skin. Because of course the scroll was never a scroll at all. It was you, your body, your regrets, your hollow silences flattened into a narrative suitable for binding. You watch the archivist nod as you write with trembling fingers, scripting your next memory before you've lived it. It reads, in the tower with no doors, the sermon echoes. Not as words, but as wounds. You flinch as something opens inside your ribcage. No blade, no entry, just ... an edit, a correction. The kind a cruel teacher makes, the kind a god would bleed to erase. The archivist gestures, and the mist parts, and now you see it. The tower, it should not be this close. It should not be here, yet it always has been. Its silhouette curls into the sky like a question mark dipped in soot, and you know that at its heart lies the original error. The first heresy, the word that broke the silence. The tower is older than language and taller than grief. Its bricks are carved from library ash, the mortar choir bone dust. And between each layer, a psalm stitched in human nerve. Even now, The tower hums not a sound, but a suggestion. You take your first step toward it, and the archivist does not follow. She nods once and vanishes into a punctuation mark, a period, an end. Or maybe just a pause. The mist follows, licking at your heels, whispering its thanks. It always admired how well you held your breath. The earth beneath you is flat now, story flat, intentional flat. You are walking a sentence made of footsteps. And as you walk, it reads you, the tower watches. No windows, just slits, slits that blink. You arrive, there is no door, of course not. Why would there be? Only liars require entrances. You press your palm against the stone. It warms, welcomes, recognizes, you belong here. You were written here, and as you press harder, your hand sinks no resistance, only acceptance. You step through inside, the tower is hollow. Not empty, hollow, like a throat, it inhales you. The floor beneath your feet is parchment, and it crackles, not from pressure but from tension. A chorus of unfinished verses hums just beneath the surface. You step carefully, trying not to rhyme, trying not to agree with whatever wrote this place. But your body begins to pulse with meter. You feel the rhythm settle into your bones. The tower has a heart. You hear it beat, once, twice. Then stop. It has recognized the reader. No, it has recognized the author far above. A staircase descends. It shouldn't move, but it has to. The plot demands a way up. You climb. Each stair bears a name. Most of them are yours, from other drafts. From forgotten versions of you, better or worse, but always more aware. One step reads, the self who screamed too early. Another, the self who refused the quill. You step over them. They flinch as you pass. The climb is endless, yet brief. When you reach the top, the sermon is waiting, not written, not sung, spoken by the prophet. Or what's left of her, she is bound in sigils. No rope, just syntax, trapped by clauses older than despair. Her mouth is open, but her tongue is gone. You know where it went. It lives in the ink you carry. The prophet stares at you. Eyes milky, but not blind, just unreadable. She leans forward, though the air resists her, screaming at the breach of sentence. Her voice, when it comes, is a scratch against the page. Finish it. You hesitate. The quill pulses. The tower leans in. Finish what? The sermon. The scroll. Yourself. You step forward. The prophet kneels. You hold the quill above her like a dagger, like a gift, like a promise. And then you turn it and write on the air. The words you write complete her mouth. A phrase you never knew you remembered. Let the silence digest us whole. And then she sings, no melody, no tune. Just meaning, too much meaning. The sky outside splits like damp parchment, and through it, the ink things come. Their fingers are made of fonts no longer used. Their mouths are quotation marks, hungry for beginnings. And behind them, the last reader watches. You feel your face shift, you know what it becomes. You know who it becomes. You are becoming the next prophet, of course. You should have read the fine print. The tongue isn't gone, it just needed a new singer. And now it curls behind your teeth, tasting your shame. You part your lips, the next stanza waits. The lull does not come, you wait for it, some pause, a breath, a whimper of stillness after the sky splits. But the air does not yield, instead. It tightens around your shoulders like a wet shroud. The prophet you now stands at the tower's throat, staring into a sky rewriting mid-sentence. Above, clouds unravel like lines struck from a forbidden's manuscript. Every lightning bolt etches another curse into the black, and the things spilling through. They do not fall, they descend, graceful, deliberate, awful. They are punctuation made flesh. Ellipses with too many eyes, apostrophes with bone hooks. Quotation marks that cradle skulls and whisper every last version of your name. They do not speak, they remember. Their presence means the scroll has finished reading you. Now it begins writing back. A quill stabs the sky. You watch as it pins a horizon across the torn clouds, and below that horizon, a city. Not your city, not yet, but familiar, too familiar, built on the bones of towns you've dreamed of escaping. Its streets pulse with ink, its spires hum with redacted hymns. A single banner flaps above the cathedral. In its center, it reads, "Here ends the silence." You recognize the font, your own hand. The tower sighs behind you. Or maybe it weeps. You look down. The staircase is gone. The tower is sealed, a final draft. No, it's allowed. You feel something crawling up your throat. Not a scream, not a word, a clause. It rises just behind your molars, eager to be spoken, but you dare not voice it, not yet. Instead, you press a finger to your lips and the clause pauses. Behaves, waits. You descend not downstairs, but across prose. Each step now a sentence, written as you walk. You descend because you must. The ink sings in your veins. You wonder briefly what the ending demands. You keep moving. The ink city nears. And as you reach its gates, the guards greet you not with weapons, but manuscripts. Each one bears your face on the cover, each one titled, "The Silence That Spoke Too Soon." They do not ask who you are, they already know. They read you page by page, word by breath. And when they reach the part where you enter their gates, they look up in unison. They nod and step aside. You walk past them. Their eyes never leave your spine. The streets beyond are empty, yet crowded. Shadows walk without legs. Silhouettes gesture at things no longer present. The buildings whisper nothing so clear as language, just intent. At the heart of the square, a statue turns to face you. It was not facing you before, you're certain. Its eyes are wide, too wide, its mouth open, as if trying to vomit a sermon. And etched beneath its feet, the one who tried to unwrite the blood scroll. How curious, that isn't your title. Not yet, still. The statue seems expectant. Your foot hits a crack in the cobblestones. The crack bleeds. You feel your name leak into the ground. And something beneath it smiles. The close behind your teeth shifts. It wants out. You clench your jaw. The parchment wind returns, rustling the dead leaves of old prayers. A boy stands beside the fountain. You didn't see him arrive. He looks at you with empty eyes. Not blind-edited. His tongue is gone. But his voice is everywhere. It echoes from the stones, the bricks, the gargoyles overhead. He waits beneath the index. You open your mouth to ask who, but the clause bursts free. You speak without meaning to. The index is not a place, it is a pause, the boy nods. He vanishes, no fade, no flash. Just a line break, a new paragraph begins. You are already walking toward the cathedral, toward the sermon's source, toward him. The door is split open as you approach, not from hinges, but like a scab peeled back. The aisle stretches too long, and you know how this ends. You've read ahead, haven't you? You've seen the footnotes, the marginalia, the little scrawlings in the corners of your dreams, and somewhere, always, this line. You will sing the verse that ends the world. You step inside. You hear your own heartbeat echo off the stone. But it isn't yours anymore. It belongs to the scroll. It always did. The altar waits. So does the knife, but not the usual kind. This one is a redaction, a blade of pure silence. It hums, eager to strike through your next sentence. Behind the altar sits a figure in a bishop's garb stitched from language, not cloth. His mitre is folded from hymns. His hands are dipped in ellipses. And where his face should be, there's only a question mark. He speaks, author, you reply, not with words, but with punctuation, a full stop. The cathedral closes behind you with the finality of a sealed tomb. No clang, no whine, but a period. You stand in the nave, surrounded by aisles of pews that have not held parishioners in centuries. Each bench is engraved with excerpts from psalms no one remembers composing. They pulse faintly. as though the words wish to rise and walk again. The bishop-like figure still watches, not with eyes, but implication. His faceless head tilts slightly, and that's all it takes. Your knees buckle. You kneel, of course you do, you always were meant to. The blood scroll told you that long ago, you simply hadn't read far enough. He gestures once, a choir stirs, not living, not dead. Their mouths are paper, folded into expressionless O's. Their tongues are ribbons of red vellum. From them rises a chant that does not echo at roots. It takes hold in your sternum and vines outward, curling around your spine like a creeping citation. You try to breathe, you inhale dust parchment. Your own name, reduced to pulp, from the rafters above. Chandeliers of ink-dripping quills swing gently. One breaks loose, it doesn't fall, it dives, stabbing into the marble at your feet. There's no ink, only blood. You look closer, it's yours. From tomorrow, a small bookmark dangles from the quill's spine. It reads, "Don't turn the page yet." You do, of course you do. The figure behind the altar raises one hand, and the cathedral tilts, reality skews. You slide forward, not across stone, but across narrative. You arrive before the altar. The blade of redaction hovers there, silent, starving. You are meant to grasp it. You do not, you are meant to speak. You almost do. But your mouth, traitorous mouth, is already open, already trembling with unformed sentences, and he leans forward, whispers, "The next verse is mine." You realize the truth in that moment. The prophet's tongue, the one that was swallowed to begin the black sermon, was never destroyed. It was preserved, bound, transcribed into the blood scroll itself. And now it's inside you, not metaphorically. You feel it, slithering behind your teeth every time you try to speak. It reads your intent and corrects the syntax. You're no longer the speaker, you're the pen. And the blood scroll is ready to write the ending. He points again. A window bursts open. Wind howls in not air, not weather, but footnotes. Rejected thoughts, cursed ideas, rogue annotations long banished from even the darkest seminaries. They circle you. A vortex of rejected scripture. One lands on your shoulder. You glance at it. Just 5 words. You weren't meant to live. The bishop waits. He no longer gestures. You know what he wants. And so, with hands that tremble like dying commas, you lift the blade. The redactor, it hums again. No, not hums, corrects. The blade wants to edit you, trim your edges, strike through your doubts. You press it against your own palm, draw a line. Your blood writes faster than your mind can follow. A sigil unfurls across the altar, and the cathedral answers. Not with light, with ink. It pours from the stained glass, blackening every colored saint into blasphemous silhouettes. The pews groan and shift like teeth in a jaw. The very foundation beneath you writhes as if remembering its true shape. And beneath it all, the well, the same that sang only after the villagers drowned. You hear it again now, not a song, a recital. It's reciting you line by line. You are being read aloud by the earth. The bishop nods once. And in a voice that should not be, that is too early, too late, too in between, he says, "Begin the final draft." You feel the scroll unfurl inside your mind. Every memory becomes a sentence, every fear a comma, every regret an annotation in red. You step forward. The altar splits. A staircase descends not of stone, but of verses. You walk down, not because you must, because you were always going to, and as you descend, a single page drifts past your shoulder. It bears your face, screaming, and the caption. The one who mistook the ending for salvation. Too late to close the book now. Too late to unwrite yourself. But not too late to become footnote immortal. Not yet, not quite. You reach the bottom. It isn't a crypt, it's a library. The library waits not in silence, but in exhale. Every breathless space between shelves is heavy with anticipation, as though the tomes themselves await your presence to finalize their margins. The scent of centuries-old glue and vellum still clings in the air. but beneath it, just beneath it, is something else, wet parchment. Freshly inked, pages still soft, alive. You walk deeper. The torches on the walls do not burn. Instead, words float where flames should be, Latin phrases and known characters, even your own handwriting spelling out apologies you haven't spoken yet. The walls hum, not with heat, with footnotes. You pass the first row of books, their titles twitch when you look too long. Regret is told by the wind, children born of Magians. The prophet's second tongue, still wet. You dare not open any of them. You know the rule. He who reads what should be shelved becomes what should be shelved. It's been whispered to you a dozen times since the altar. Or maybe that was the tongue again. You press on. You arrive at the central pedestal. A glass case sits atop it, inside. Not a relic, but a gap, an absence, the kind of void that used to contain something sacred. A sign nailed beside it, written in bone ink, reads, "The folio was never here, and yet, you know it was. This is the final catalog, the true record. The butcher's folio, removed from time to stain it. You feel it even now, the oily drag of its presence behind you, above you. Inside you, recall the sermon etched into your blood 2 rooms ago. It wasn't a sermon, it was an index. You reach behind your neck and feel your own spine, raised like braille. Each vertebra a reference. The whisper comes again, not from the shelves this time, but from the floor. The tiles beneath your boots lift asterisk, not break, not crack asterisk, but peel, underneath. There are not beams, there is not foundation. There are hands, all left hands, gloved in silence. Open-palmed, as if waiting to catch whatever final phrase slips from your tongue. You kneel to inspect one. It clutches a library card. Your name is on it, stamped overdue. By 212 years, you drop it, it floats. Refuses to touch the ground, you rise. Turn and find a figure waiting in the aisle. Not the bishop, not a priest, no robe. No sermon, only skin, endless folds of it. Stitched into a robe of hands, each palm still twitches. Each knuckle still remembers. The butcher himself, he does not walk. He is shelved, and the shelves move with him. He arrives beside the pedestal, doesn't speak, doesn't need to. You understand him entirely. Your story has no pages left. The folio is full. But he hasn't read you yet, and he must. The rule is carved into his knuckles. To bind it, one must bleed it aloud. He extends one of his many hands. It doesn't grasp you, it opens you. Just above your collarbone. Not with a blade, not with force, with acknowledgement. The cut is a sentence. Your blood begins to pour, but not red. Not anymore. It's black. It spales itself midair. Each droplet forms a glyph, a heading, a footnote from your childhood. A lie you told at age 6, the final draft of a secret you never dared to confess. You are bleeding your annotations. The butcher tilts his head. One of the hands on his chest peels open an old book, the first one. The original binding. Your name is inside, but crossed out. Above it, revised. Below it, a blank space. You know what he wants. You must sign it. Not with ink, with breath. The same breath that will cost your voice. You do. The book seals shut. A chorus of shelves shiver, and far above, something cracks, the ceiling. No, the story. A fissure runs across your past. Everything you were fractures backward. Birthdays, screams, lovers, regrets, all replaced with margins, with symbols that itch the mind when glanced at too long. The butcher bows slightly, a librarian's nod, respectful. Grateful, final, he turns, begins to shelve himself again. One hand lingers, yours. You didn't notice it before, but you recognize the scar on the thumb. The way the pinky curves slightly inward. One of his hands was once yours. You feel its absence now. You do not scream. You index. And the library accepts you. Not as guest, not as victim, but as appendix. You take your place beside the altar, not seated, not bound, but posed, waiting, reading. The whispering resumes, but now it uses your voice. It isn't mimicry, not quite. The cadence is wrong. The pauses are all where you wouldn't dare place them. But the timbre, the breath between consonants, that's you. It floats from the highest stacks, where no footsteps have fallen for centuries, and crawls down the ladders like smoke. You try to swallow, but your throat is still open. Not cut, not wounded open, a passage, now a speaker. You've become an echo before it even ends. The library shifts its spine, shelves realign themselves with the sound, like dogs toward a whistle only they can hear. You glimpse an eye you hadn't seen before. It curves, not just horizontally, but vertically twisting upward in a slow corkscrew that climbs into itself, a Mobius of memory. Of course, you walk toward it. What else could you do? The torches flicker nervously as you pass, not because they fear you, but because they recognize you now. They know what was taken to write the nameplate on your back. That's what you are now. After all, or reference, a marginalia with legs. The footnote that learned to scream, and now you're in the new corridor. It smells like regret cloying and sweet, like perfume from someone long dead but freshly buried. The walls are lined not with shelves, but with hooks. And from the hooks, hands, just hands. Again, but not armored, not twitching, still. Preserved in wax, labeled, you pass. Hand that dropped the torch, hand that pulled the wrong lever. Hand that clapped at the prophet's lie. Hand that turned to many pages, and then, of course, hand that signed the folio. Yours is there too, a second one. So you know now, more than one version of you has walked these halls. One made it this far before. The hand is curled into a fist, defiant, arrogant, possibly foolish. You keep moving. At the center of the spiral corridor, there is a mirror. Not glass, not silver, mercury, liquid, vertical. Frozen in defiance of gravity, it breathes in, out. You touch it. And your reflection doesn't follow. It stares, patient, head slightly tilted, like a scholar reviewing a poor translation of its own name. You blink, it doesn't. You reach forward, it grins. And you remember something the butcher never told you. There was never only one folio, there was one per reader. Each written in their breath, in their regrets, in the small gestures they thought no one saw. This mirror shows you your version. It parts, and you step through. The shift is immediate. Your bones rearrange slightly. Your tongue tastes of old coins. A pressure gathers behind your eyes, not pain. Just the weight of seeing too much. The world on the other side is flat. Not lacking dimension, no lacking authorship. It's a draft, an ink, a place waiting for a story. You walk the dry earth, footsteps leave no mark. You pass trees with no bark, only veins, sky with no stars, only puncture marks. And in the center of it all, a desk, your desk old, familiar, from a childhood memory you forgot on purpose. And atop it, a single sheet of flesh parchment. Empty, you sit, your hand lifts of its own accord. You begin to write, not with ink, with marrow. Each word hurts, not physically, but existentially. Like pulling pieces of your identity and laying them down as verbs. You write your name, and it fades immediately. Wrong start, you try again. You write, it was a village. And the parchment screams, not aloud, but inward. You hear the scream inside your lungs, the well, it says. Don't forget the well, you rewrite. The well sang only after the villagers drowned, and this time, silence. Then acceptance, the page pulses gently. You are writing the origin. Not of the folio, of the world it came from. Because someone has to. Someone always has to, and the butcher. He was merely the binder, you are the author. You are the one who must begin it all again and end it. The desk accepts your story, but you know what comes at the end of all tales written in marrow and echo through wells. A cost, you feel it stir in your back, your spine loosens, prepares to slither free because this folio needs one final piece. The binding, and you'll give it, willingly. You always were such a generous reader. The desk bleeds softly beneath your wrists. You don't recoil, you knew this was part of the cost. The wood, once familiar, now pulses like muscle vein, tender, warm. You can't recall the grain pattern anymore, only the feeling that it has always been waiting for you. Your fingertips sink slightly into the surface as you write, absorb liking through skin. No quill, no pen, just narrowers leaking from your nail beds in delicate threads, coiling into words the way cobwebs catch breath. The folio takes shape, and the world shifts, not drastically, not all at once. This isn't an earthquake. This is a quiet edit, a punctuation removed. A proper noun introduced, a village added, a child erased. You don't stop writing, you're nearly halfway through. And still, the mirror behind you watches. Yes, you feel it. You feel the absence of eyes that once belonged to your reflection, now stolen by the folio. You're being observed, not from the glass, but from the margin, from the footnotes written long before you arrived. You know this because your name appears again, not on the page, not on the desk, on your back, branded, scarred, whispered. The folio knew your spine before you sat. A shame, then, that you'll need to give it away. Another page curls upward from the desk. It doesn't unroll, it grows. New skin, new thirst. It waits for something more painful than words. It wants a memory, a true one. So you close your eyes and go back farther than you're supposed to. You're for it, someone's calling your name. Not kindly, not cruelly, just as a warning. You step into a room you shouldn't remember. It's lined with jars, not for food, not for herbs. For tongues, all of them dried, catalogued, labeled. Your great-uncle was a collector of sorts. Or perhaps the collector wore his face that year. It's hard to say, and harder to want to. One jar is missing. It always has been. The nameplate below it, yours. That's the memory you give. The folio devours it. You feel the tongue in your mouth ride, not yours anymore. Not even once, twice, removed through flesh ancestry. You speak now, not for yourself, but for the ink, for the blood scroll. For the voice that cracked the sky and never mended it. Your next sentence writes itself. The prophet's tongue grew back inside another's mouth. And with that, the world around you ripples. The paper sighs. The mirror behind you fractures not with violence, but purpose. Each shard turns. Faces stare from within. Some familiar, some future. One is still chewing. You recognize the prophet. They didn't swallow their own tongue. They fed it to you, of course they did. Of course they had to. How else would the sermon continue? How else would the scroll remember how to speak? The next hook drips from the ceiling now. It gleams wet, ready, warm ... Your spine shivers again. Not from fear, from obedience. Because the folio is almost finished. You are almost complete. The cursed armor of the butcher. It was made of hands because he lacked the courage to wear a mouth. But you're braver. You wear every voice you've consumed, every scream unspoken. And when you write the final name, the one that ends this chapter of reality, the parchment moans, folds inward, and seals. It's not the end of the story. Just the end of the storyteller. You sit, now hollow, the desk now full. You see another pair of footsteps approach from the far side of the mirror. Another reader, another version. You know what to do. You stand, you nod, you offer them the chair. They don't ask questions. They already know the answers are written in their bones. And the folio, bloated with your truth, begins to hum. It waits hungrily, patiently, because stories do not need mouths to speak, only readers to believe. The humming doesn't stop, it deepens. It gathers breath from nowhere, from nothing, from you. Your ribs rise and fall with the rhythm of it, not entirely your own anymore. A lullaby, slow and wet, plays from the marrow of the desk, not with sound, with remembrance. A tune the walls knew before they were stone, when they were still screaming. You turn, the reader in your chair is no longer seated. They've sunk into it, not slumped, sunk, as if the wood had welcomed them home. Only their fingertips protrude now, twitching with what you hope is curiosity. The folio opens on its own. Pages shuffle, pages decide. You know it's time. Your chapter must be sealed. You approach the mirror, the one you broke. The one that never truly reflected you. Each shard watches, and within them, voices flutter like moths trapped behind old glass. You see an altar, you see a crib. You see a dinner table, you see the well. And you hear the water, not gurgling, not splashing, weeping. Of course it does. The well weeps for those who drown inside and never rise. The well remembers better than any archive, better than ink, better than you. The villagers once thought they could silence it by silence itself. No screaming, no crying, no naming of names. They forgot that names are how the dead crawl back, and someone you carved them into the bricks. You speak the first aloud, Mother Thresh. A low moan replies, then another name. Torren Vale, the water spits. You flinch, but it doesn't burn, it soaks. It seeps. Each name is a stone lifted from the edge. Each stone leaves space for a face. Soon, the well will be full again. Not with water ... with witnesses. You turn from the mirror, and the desk has changed. Not a desk now, an altar, and the reader, gone. But not far, they're inside now. Their hand is the bookmark. Their breath keeps the ink from drying. You don't sit. You kneel. You place your palms on the blood scroll and wait. It knows what you are. It knows what you're not. And what you'll never be again. The sermon begins. There is no speaker, only silence that listens. And in that silence, the words find shape. The prophet's tongue was a key. You flinch. You know this phrase. It was whispered to you once, in sleep, by a shadow that were your grandfather's voice. The rest of the sentence was unclear until now. You write it, the prophet's tongue was a key. And your mouth is the lock, the folio accepts. The blood dries into shape, and the door opens. Yes, there was always a door in the corner of the room that never quite made sense. The shadowed space between shelf and candle. Too small to walk through, but too deep to ignore. Now it yawns. Inside, a spiral staircase of vertebrae descends. And descends, and descends. You step in. Barefoot now. When did you remove your shoes? And begin the descent. Every third step sighs your name. Halfway down, you hear it. The black sermon, not spoken, hummed by hundreds of voices with no throats. They rise and fall in unison, bleeding meaning into you. The air becomes warm and coppery. You gag once, but continue. The scroll is not finished. At the base of the stair, you find them, the hands, the butcher's hands. Not severed, not truly, still flexing, still longing. His armor lies in a careful pile, each hand stitched to the next by golden thread, looped into sacred symbols you cannot name. They whisper not to you, for you. You listen, and from them, you learn the truth. You are the final page. The folio does not end until you are written upon. Not metaphor, literal ... you lie down. The altar accepts your weight. The ink warms, and across your chest, a new phrase is scrawled by invisible stylus. He wore no mask. His face was simply borrowed. You understand now. You've met him, haven't you? You were him once, before the folio, before the tongue, before the well sang. And when the villagers drowned, it wasn't in water. It was in story, in belief, in you. You were the song. You are again. And the final verse is just beginning. The folio closes, but you don't hear it. Because you're inside it now, not metaphorically, not figuratively. Your breath slows, your skin tingles, as if parchment has memory and is reclaiming one of its own. You're being transcribed in reverse, not written down, but unwritten upward. A tether lifted from the spine of flesh and bound into that leather screen someone long ago had the gall to call a book. The air shifts, the ink thickens. You hear the well sing again, fainter, more distant, yet impossibly close. A tune made of teeth against stone and breathless throat hums. Not mourning, Not joy, something far worse, comprehension. Because you remember now what they drowned for. It wasn't silence, it was order. The village believed naming would save them, but names only gather echoes. The children that sang in circles around the well, do you recall them? Their fingers laced in rhyme, their voices always have a beat behind each other. Their teeth fell out too early, you know, because they whispered things that should have stayed in water. You're one of them now, one of the whisperers. No longer readable, a page, a memory, a wound. Still warm, still turning. The butcher's hands fold you gently. They do not tremble, they have done this before. Their golden threaded armor pulses once softly. A heartbeat, a warning, or simply applause. As you're slotted into place, you feel the weight of those who came before. You feel the gap where you always were. You were missing, now you're not. The black sermon quiets, the ink stills. The final name is spoken, yours, and silence reigns, but not in peace. Not in triumph, just ... stillness. The kind that waits for a knock. A whisper at time, another to swallow. Because the folio is always hungry, and someone else will find it. They'll brush aside the dust, they'll touch the cover. And the hands will stir, and the prophet will weep. And the door will creak open just enough, and the sermon will begin again. The folio rests now, quiet and curled in its cradle of rotting velvet ... Its pages rise and fall, like something breathing or pretending to. Your absence leaves a shape in the room, a hollow where your weight used to be. A shadow less dense than the others, but no less watchful. Above, the chandelier flickers, though no wind stirs. The well no longer sings, not because it's empty, but because it's full again. So many voices, so many verses, all sealed behind bindings made from sermons and sin. A lullaby cracked the sky, yes, but what spilled through wasn't judgment. It was recognition. You know now, don't you? Why mirrors fog when no one's breathing? Why certain names echo longer than others? Why your dreams smell faintly of parchment and copper? It's because you were written and rewritten and remembered, and even now, though your voice is gone, your words linger. In the attic, in the cellar, in the ink on your ceiling. And tonight, as you close your eyes, oh, you're closing then. Aren't you? You shouldn't, but you are. That's fine. They'll watch for you, they always do. Especially now that you're one of them, especially now that the folio has turned its final page. For now,